Hey there, my name is Ellie, and I want to welcome you to Storytime with Ellie podcast. And today we have Viola and Orah. I want to thank you both for coming on the podcast and telling myself and the listeners your wonderful story on how you met. And naturally, with Valentine's around the corner, these are the stories we want to hear, right? Because that's February. February is the month of love, and you guys are very much in love. And look at Orah; he's thinking, "Oh, what am I going to say?" Wait, she's right next to you, so make sure you say everything right. Otherwise, she's going to. All right. Well, welcome. Let's start. Let's start with your story. I think Viola's going to start because she's got that right up there going.
Yeah.
And I
So
can't.
we actually met, what was it, 18 years ago?
It's about 18.
18 years ago. So
Wow.
I was a nurse in the emergency department, and he was bringing in involuntary commitment patients because at that time, well, still at this time, the police officers in our city, they bring in the involuntary commitment patients. And so they came, he was bringing them in, and, I kept seeing them. And at that time, I was actually married to my husband. Okay.
You know what? And Viola, for 1 second, because let's just go real quick. What was Orah? What was your job, Orah? What was
Oh,
your job?
our police officer.
Police officer, and you are a nurse practitioner.
Yes, I have a nursing practice in executive leadership, not nurse
Wonderful.
practitioner.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. So this is who you are, and now we're going to get to your story and how you came about. Perfect. Yay. Okay.
So he was bringing them in, and one day we started talking, and you asked for, did I want to work out, right?
You asked me that.
Oh, did I ask you? I don't think
Yes,
that I
yes.
asked him that. But anyway, I was like, you want to work out? So I still work out avidly now. And so at that time, he said, well, what's your number? And I told him my number. And I said, and somehow within the mix, he found out that I was married, right? Now, I was looking to work out. That was the goal, right?
Of course.
Now, he apparently was not looking to work out. He was looking for a little something else, right? And so as a result of that, he never took the number. And so I was like, well, okay, everything's all good.
Yeah.
Fast forward, not 8 or 9 years later,
Wow.
he comes into the emergency department again. Now, at this time, he hadn't been bringing in IVC patients. He actually started to work as a school resource officer. And because he started working as a school resource officer, I didn't see him all the time. Well, there was this kid that they needed to bring to the emergency department. And so the kid was critical. And so I was a charge nurse that day again. I assigned one of my nurses, actually one of my friends, to the room. So I go to the room, and when I go to the room, he's standing at the door. And I was like, hey.
Yeah. Wow. Right.
And so I walked in. Now, by this time, I'm not married. I'm not.
All right.
He's not going to tell the story right. So
Oh yeah. Wait. Sure. Wait. Wait. You got rid of the husband like 10 years earlier, right? Or no? No, 8 3/4 month. No, so, but yeah.
So I'm not married anymore. And so I walk in the room and I say, hey, and so he extends his arm out to hug me.
Mhm.
And so I lean in and I hug him. And so we exchange hugs. He says that I hugged him. He hugged me. But whatever. It doesn't matter at this point.
Right. Yeah.
So mind you, I was struggling with the whole being single. I've been married all my life, right?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. That's another whole.
I was struggling with being single. And one of the things that happened, and this was between the time, because I saw him that time,
Mhm.
but then I didn't see him, like 2 or 3 months passed by, and I didn't see him anymore.
Oh, he's slow.
Our our daughter's graduation. Okay. So our daughters they graduated on the same day, but from the same school system. So the superintendent went to each school. And so because he went to each school, he worked my daughter's graduation.
Oh my goodness.
But between that time, there was a lady that came into the emergency department, And because of the fact, this is what she said to me. She said, whenever you pray, you have to pray in specifics.
Mhm.
So she referred me to a book, and the book was the Circle of Prayer by Mark Batterson. I think that's the name of the book. And so I started reading the book, and it started talking about praying in specifics. Because when God sends you something, you want to know that God has sent you the thing that He has sent you, and that you're not confused about it. Because the conversation is between you and God, then you know that it is for you.
Love
And
this.
so I started praying in specifics.
They say that, very important. Thanks for bringing that up in this podcast. I love that. Yeah, you need to circle around that. Listen, we got to bring God in here. He, I love
Right.
it. Yeah.
So what I did was my 5 things, okay? Number 1 is that I wanted to be all about God. Number 2 is I wanted to all about me, be all about me. Number 3 is I wanted him to have a job. Number 4, I wanted him to be good looking, at least at the beginning, right? And then number 5, I wanted him to be good in bed. All right. So
Well, you got
those are
those in order.
what do you
Really
say?
specific. We should write that down.
Those are the 5 specifics. So when I met him at my daughter's graduation, at that time, I had gotten so sick of dating guys and really kind of following, because the dating scene is just different than it was way back when, 20 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
And so I just said, well, I'm just going to give everybody my number. And if, we'll have a good dinner. And if we have a good time, then great. If not, I'm good too. I'm just going to keep it moving. So I walked out and we start talking. And he started talking about the women that he was dating. And I was like, you're dating the wrong women. How about you take down my number?
Right.
So,
Like all them years. Wow. Right?
so he took down my number. And so we left, and I went to the bathroom, went back into the graduation, everything was all good. Later that night, my daughter had a graduation party, and there was this guy that came up on a motorcycle, and he was really good looking. And I was like, listen, give him my number too, okay?
Oh, wow. Yeah. You should have a card. You get cards made out now. You just hand them the card, business like a business card. It's much quicker. Remember back in the day, it was like a napkin or something.
So they gave him my number. Now, mind you, am I going to call the cop first, or am I going to call the guy on the motorcycle first? Who did I call? The guy on the motorcycle, right? So I called the guy on the motorcycle first, and we were talking. And I asked him what he did for a living. He said he was a chef. I said, okay, what do you work at? And he said, I don't. And I said, well, Lord, is that the one for me? And he said, well, didn't you ask me for somebody with a job? I said, "You
Absolutely.
did."
He failed right there. Good. Yes. You knew God. That wasn't the guy God didn't send you that one. He didn't work. You asked for a job. But get rid of that one. Sorry.
So I called up my husband, and we started talking, and I wanted to go out to a steakhouse. It's called Sullivan's, right? And so I said, well, let's go out to Sullivan's. And he was like, well, yes, we can go. And he was like, are you good? And I was like, yeah. And so we went out to Sullivan's that day, and I told him, I said, we can go Dutch, right? Because at that point in time, I had gotten used to men wanting to go Dutch. And what he said to me was, we're not going Dutch. That's not what we're going to do. And I was like, check. And so we went to Sullivan's. We were in Sullivan's. We sat down. We had a great time. After we had a great time, that time we went on 2 more dates. By that 3rd day, I knew I was going to marry him.
Wow.
Everything that I had ever wanted. And to this day, we've been married for almost 9 years, correct? So we've
Wow.
been married for almost 9 years. We don't argue. We have an amazing relationship. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. But it is because of me praying to God and God answering the prayer and him praying to God as well, right? But having God as the 3, because we're not just 2, we're 3.
Right.
It's God in this relationship as well.
Wow. Amazing. But it took you, I mean, I don't say long, but obviously it was timing.
It's
This is
timing.
a perfect example of what people say, oh, timing. So timing. I
Mhm.
mean, look how many times you met, but it wasn't timed yet because you needed to walk that other path, right? You both did. Now, were you married, Orah, when you met?
You know, when I first met her, it just got divorced. This is
Just got divorced.
yeah,
Right
and
there was the reason why. Good thing you didn't tie right away with him.
right,
Right.
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 And so I moved to Rocky Mount, and I was living by myself, and um, yeah, went through a bunch of crazy relationships.
Yeah.
I just got tired. What I had to do was I had to learn to enjoy and love me. So what I started doing was started taking personal trips by myself. And
Right.
my favorite place has always been Myrtle Beach. I would get me a room with a balcony, oceanfront, and just sit and listen to the ocean. Some days I just stay in the room the whole day and got to thinking about what I want in my life and what I don't want in my life.
And I
And
think that's important as too. And
Mhm.
because in any relationship, you need to know who you are inside, right? And you did that. You discovered who you are. So it was able for you to open up and then love someone.
mhm,
Because a lot of people don't heal that part of them and they're looking to heal through another person. But what you're really doing is you're tearing things up. You're not, you need to heal inside. And you did it. You did that. Good for you. Yeah.
People say that whenever you come into a relationship, they say that you come in there 50-50, but if you come in there 50-50, you're already half full. You have to come in there 100.
so,
And so when, I always tell people all the time, I pour from my overflow. I,
Mm.
do- I don't pour anybody, not my husband, not anybody. I have to fill up myself. He has to fill up himself in order for us to be able to pour into each other at times when we may be depleted, right? And that's
Yes.
important for us to be able to do that. And there's certain criteria that we don't we stand by. Like number one, I don't disrespect him. Like I don't talk bad about him to anyone.
me,
Or, yeah. Never do that.
Period. And I don't, he is the man of my house. Now I am very, he's very much an introvert. I'm very much an extrovert, right?
Oh,
And
well,
so
that helps too.
yeah, and so we have this relationship where we're going all the time. I'm an entrepreneur and he is as well, but we're going all the time. And so it's important for us to know we don't care if it doesn't matter 10 years down the road, it's not going to matter now. If a sock on the floor is not going to matter 10 years down the road. Who picks up the groceries today is not going to matter 10 years down the road.
Right.
So those are the principles that we stand by. Um, Also, it's God first, it's us second, and then it's our children. And that's another thing that some people, especially with blended families, that they struggle with. And that's one of the things that we wanted to get counseling for because we knew that we needed to be good with each other. And what we do is we teach our children how a spouse should treat them. And
Mm.
so that's the way that it goes. And so they're not envious of the relationship. They are thankful for the relationship
Mm.
because of those factors. And then there's other things too. Like when my husband leaves, he always kisses me, no matter what. And I do too. Same whenever we leave. And he always opens the door for me. And it doesn't matter because just because we don't argue doesn't mean we don't have times when we disagree. We do disagree, right?
Of course.
But when we disagree, we're very intentional about it's the argument, it's the thing that we're disagreeing about. We're not disagreeing about the love that we have between each other. That's a non-negotiable, right?
So you think that a lot of times when couples are arguing, instead of arguing about the situation, they're questioning their relationship. Like, are you really what I want? So is that
Right.
what you're saying? People need to keep that out of the equation. Argue
Right.
about the subject, not about each other. And I think is that what you're trying to say, basically?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think that is huge because you do that. A lot of people do that, right? They'll go into an argument and they're like, God, I should have known I should have married you. Or I should have, instead of arguing about, you're right, right? Instead of arguing about like, the pen, this and whatever, they argue, you immediately turn it around to the other person and that causes conflict. So I think you two found the right niche. You seem like you got the right chemistry, the right everything going on. So I'm asking you both, how would you tell people, explain relationships if you said to them, um, you kind of already did in a roundabout way, but to keep a relationship strong, what would you recommend as you can both obviously answer that one.
I'm
I'm
sure
kind of already did, but yeah. Explain that again. Like make believe I'm coming into you. Listen, I'm in a relationship, not getting along with my husband and whatever, whatnot. And what would you say to me to like, as it's like almost a therapist type of thing? What would you say? What's keeping it strong? What would you tell me to keep my relationship strong that feels like it's going out the window?
number
'Cause you
one,
two mastered it. You two mastered it. You did.
yeah,
Whether you realize it, you
yeah,
mastered it.
yeah,
So
number
I'm
one,
asking you, what would I do to help me?
He said, number one, put God first.
and,
And so, go ahead.
and I mean, put God first in everything you do.
God.
Always make
Pray to God. You're saying prayer, right? Pray to
yeah,
God. Ask him for
and a lot of people like, well, I ain't got to put God in all my business, but yes, you do. You need to put God in everything you do
okay.
because God will lead you the right way.
Beautiful. Mhm.
And I think one of the things too is learning to love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself to the capacity in which you need to love yourself, then you are unable to love anybody else at that capacity.
Mhm.
So learning to love yourself is how sometimes I question that because I wonder whether I should love God more than should love myself. But the reality is that I can't love God the way in which I know how to love God if I don't know how to love myself first. So that's number one that I feel. I also feel like when it comes to people you have to have a great foundation. So we just had a great foundation.
Yes, it
Like
was
we
built on.
understood, like we had done it wrong, right? Previously. And so because we had done it wrong previously, then we understood the red flags that come up. But the fact of the matter is that most people don't understand those red flags. You
They
know,
jump
they
too quick. I think a lot of people jump too quick and they look for that void. Like if they're not dating somebody, and I'm all about that. If you're just coming out of a relationship or you're not, stop bouncing. Figure
right,
yourself out. Figure who
right.
you are. And once you figure who you are and what you want, it's much easier to go into a relationship because now, whether we pick a little bit too much, but you could see those red flags because you know what you like. And I mean, and understand that, right? I mean, I don't skydive. I'm not a skydiving type of person. So I meet people all the time. I'm not gonna get involved with a man who's a skydiver and he lives to skydive and he wants me to skydive because I'm not gonna do it. And eventually he's gonna wear on. He's gonna be like, wait a minute, no, I want you to, I'm not gonna do it. And especially that we're older. Because we tend to pick a little bit more on a relationship. So you really have to try to come with somebody closer to what you are. And you two were. You two came together because you had a lot in common. You both went through a lot and healed yourselves before getting involved. Sounds like to me. That's what you
And
said.
that's a great analogy when you talked about skydiving because for me it was one of the red flags for me was religion, right? So first of all, we've got enough. Like I worked in the emergency department for years, right?
So
He worked as a police officer for years. And the reality is that when you go into those environments, there is a lot of grief. There's a lot of things. You have to heal. You have to be whole. I'm not going to have anyone in my home that I'm arguing with that I need to then go out and argue with. My home has to be peaceful,
right.
right? And so that is huge. So for me, it was religion. Like it was this one guy who wanted to date me, and I thought he was nice like it. But I mean, he just was a different religion. And I knew that I had grown up, and not that I'm saying that what I grew up as I grew up as a Christian, right? And so because I grew up like that, I knew I couldn't have it. To each his own
I
as it
know what
relates
you're saying.
to religion, right? But as for me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord,
Yeah, and
right?
you know that. So you're not gonna
Right,
go with someone who doesn't share your belief. Because
right,
that will fester and cause a problem. And
right.
and then when you see that, it's just what we're bouncing back to, when you see that and understand that, I see it, who I meet people today, and I'm like, and they're like, "Well, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy." I'm like, "Well, he's nice, but or he's good looking. Yeah, he's nice, but the belief in what he feels and what he thinks and how he acts is not who I am. So I'm not beating that dead horse." Wait, next. No, but no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too,
And I
man.
think that, some things are compromises and you can, like, if you're already in the relationship and there are some things that, you have to, there's, as my husband said, there's some prayers that can be prayed. And sometimes you just got to shut your mouth.
Mhm.
Proverbs 17:28 said, this is a Violaism. It's not quote unquote coming from the Bible, but Violaism says to shut your mouth and be thought a fool and to open your mouth and remove all doubt. That's for me. Okay. That's what I, quoted as. And so sometimes you just got to be quiet. And so when I am hurt, and this is emotional intelligence, right? Because, people have IQ and they have EQ. IQ is how smart you are. EQ is how you can tell whether the situation, how the situation is going. And so what I have to do is I just have to be quiet. When my heart hurts, and I do this all the time. Now, way back when, I was not as mature as I am now. Now, way back when, you'd have got cussed out. But right now, I'm not that person. And so now I'm quiet until my heart heals and until I can come back to you with a sensible answer. And so I'm quiet and I sit. Now he knows whenever I'm upset about something, but the majority of the people, they don't know. But I will come back and I will address it. But I'm quiet in the moment because I need to address it in a way that's emotionally intelligent so that I don't harm him. Because I can't take back the things that I said to him. And he is an amazing man. And because he is an amazing man, I am not going to jeopardize what I've got here.
Mm. Well said. Well said. Beautiful.
I think on my piece is I look at I'm the man of the house and I'm the man in her life and I took a vow to protect her. And why would I do any kind of harm to her by hurting her feelings or anything like that?
Yeah, no, a beautiful respect you two have. Very
And
nice. Beautiful.
yeah, so as a man, I don't feel I should do that at all. I always think about her feelings before I say or do
Nice. You two need to write a book about this.
anything.
I just like, wait a minute. We just got on the podcast. Let's write a book. No, it's an art. It's an art. If you can come together, harmonious, I can't even say it, and be like how you are, it's just an amazing. Now, so okay, so now you're together, but how did you like? How did you propose to her? Because you seem like a romantic man, and you seem like you better propose to me in a good way. Wait, wait,
it,
where's it going?
it, it was kind of funny. It was one of our many dates. Like she said, we knew early on that that was it. And so I had already had the ring and everything, and we had like a date that night. And I had made reservations at Ruth Chris.
Oh, nice.
I had already called them, and they knew what was going on. And so I got up after we ate. I get up to go to the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And he comes out and put flowers on the table, and she was like, "Well, why are you putting flowers on the
Oh,
table?"
wow. My boyfriend just went to the bathroom.
She
He's
said,
coming back. Hurry up.
"We
Oh,
do this all the time." So,
wow. Okay.
but I'm standing around the corner, and I gave him my phone so he can video it, and I proposed to
Mhm.
Oh, to me, you didn't have that.
him.
Yeah.
Aw.
And one of the things that I have to say is that whenever you're in the right relationship, what happens is I'm definitely a go-getter, have always been all my life. Okay.
I could
So
tell.
we before we were married, I had an associate's degree in nursing. Okay. And and this is the caveat, and not that my husband was just not the right marriage for me. It just was what it was, right? It was
Oh, it's
not
meant to be though, yeah.
required, right? And so before we got married, I went back. I was an LPN. Okay. Now, me and my husband, we divorced each other and then we remarried each other. Okay. Don't ask me why. But
That's
anyway,
okay. I've heard people.
so in between the time that we remarried, we divorced and remarried each other, I went back to school to get my RN degree. Okay. Now, after we divorced each other that last and final time, I was in school to get my bachelor's degree. This is when me and Orah met, right?
Yes.
Now, during the time that me and Orah met, I was back in school. I graduated just a few days before he proposed to me. All right.
Okay, all right.
That July, this was December 26th in which he proposed, right? Am I correct about that? It was the day after Christmas, right?
Mhm.
So the day after Christmas is when he proposed. That July we got married. That
Nice.
August I got back in school to get my master's degree. And from my master's degree, then I went back to school to get my doctoral degree.
Very
But
nice.
it was
Oh, he's supportive as
because
well. Very nice, supportive each
peace,
other.
but it was peace at home.
Yeah.
I didn't have to use brain space and wondering whether he was mad at me. What I just didn't have to.
Or
And I
so
think
it's sync.
that is the takeaway that men have to understand, or that women have to understand, right? When you provide a supportive environment at your home, it elevates everything,
Mhm.
everything,
Yeah, I agree.
everything. And so because of that, I mean, and I was able to quit my job. I was able to become a full-time entrepreneur. I mean, I don't believe I could have done that without having Kim being here as a support and helping me to get there.
Beautiful. Nice. Well done. Well
Yeah.
done. Beautiful. And I agree. I agree with everything that you just said. And it is important that you have that support. And a lot of times you don't. And you don't. And there's an argument. And the bottom line, you two happen to know each other obviously a lot. It was meant to be your timing. So this is a beautiful story. And so you got married, your children, you both have kids. Your
Yeah.
children, both obviously.
We have. And I always tell this too, because before I got married, I wanted to have 4 children, right? And I had the first one, and I was like, we're not doing that too many more
Oh,
times.
yeah.
And so we after she got to be about 2 years old, I wanted to have another one because I thought she was cute. And so I had another one. But I knew I wasn't gonna have, as soon as I knew that he was a boy, I knew I wasn't gonna have any more children because I didn't like being pregnant.
Right.
So when we got together, he has 3 and I have 2. And so I always say that God blesses you with exceedingly abundantly above more than you could ask or thought, because
Yeah.
originally I wanted 4. Now I
Got
have
an extra. Got an extra one thrown in there. So you
yeah.
had 4, you got 5. Beautiful.
And
Well,
in
that's
there,
nice. Sweet.
and we got, in there we have we have a photographer. One of my sons is a photographer. One of them is a videographer, and one of my daughters is my makeup artist. And so in that we have all of our
Beautiful celebration.
yeah,
Yes.
it's amazing.
You should bring no pictures of nothing. We should put a picture or something.
The picture that I sent you is that one of the pictures that we literally just took. One of our sons just literally took.
I meant when you got married, your wedding picture.
Oh, I'm sorry. we have one right here. We have one right here.
You got a phone. Oh, that's so cool. That's so sweet. Nice. Very, very nice. Oh my gosh. So, okay, Valentine's Day, what's happening tomorrow? What's the plan?
So we've
Oh,
asked,
you know the plan. I was like, why did I look at Orah and say, what was the plan? You have the plan.
no, well, we've already celebrated Valentine's Day. We
Okay.
did it over the weekend. We went to a concert that's called World Jam. And after the concert, then we just stayed in the city. It's Raleigh, North Carolina. We just stayed in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then we went to Sullivan's the next day, which was the restaurant that we originally went to. We don't go there often, but we went there the next day, and so we've already celebrated it.
Well, great. Great. for both of you. It's so nice to see a beautiful relationship and a good story on two people get into, that got together after so long and have this work for you. It's nice to see positive and the whole picture. Woo, nice,
Yes. It's
nice.
just important. It's important. This
And
is the
so
relationship. Honestly, if you can get this right, then you are.
well, that's
Say-
what I'm saying. It's a challenge because people, even if you know what you need to do in a relationship, but let's face it, it's you can't do it alone. You have to have two people in the same space. And a lot of times, in many cases, it's not there. And they're deceived in the beginning. I don't want to go back into that, but it's that deception of not knowing. They're being deceived because, and that's another thing a lot of times. I know we don't want to spin it into this, but you don't know because you're seeing things for what you think are there, or what
Mhm.
you think that person is, and they're really not, because you're not being true to yourself. And listen, and that's another problem. You two got it going on, and I really
So what do you think is the biggest reason outside of deception?
I think a lot of times, well, I don't want to say they outgrow one another, but we're talking about in long-term relationships, a lot of times why they don't work is because first of all, the foundation's not strong enough, right? There's no foundation. And your foundation was what you had in common and say God, which if that's your main foundation, which brought you together, where a lot of people don't. And I don't want to say it this way, but I guess, and again, this is my perception. I'm saying it's not everyone's, but a lot of times sex is a problem.
Mm.
First, get into a relationship or a date, let's call it a date, and people immediately sleep with one another. I think what you're doing is you're blindsiding what really that person is by sex. And again, we just turned this around into that. And I think that could be a problem. I think because you're not anything they do from that point on, because let's face it, sex is a powerful tool. And I know I just turned this around to this. Am I right? So I think what happens with people is when you cross that line in the beginning, there's a connection between a connection between a couple from that. And in a lot of cases, they are not really thinking right. So a woman too, a woman may put up with more because of the fact that that's what happened, because women are wired differently. So we have some of this, and I've coached a lot of couples, and that was they would come out and say they weren't really thinking straight, and the things that he was doing, mostly women do complain more. It wasn't. They would have never, if they had just met that guy and didn't get into all that, they probably never would have put up with it. And am I making sense with this?
Makes sense. So have you ever heard of soul ties?
No, I didn't hear that one yet.
So that's what I was told that was. So whenever you sleep with someone,
Okay.
almost like you take on their energy, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. I did. I never heard that word, but yes.
soul ties. And
Yeah.
so
I s- I usually call it something else, but I don't want to say it on here because I've said it and I want us to go on. I want us to go on Apple as well. And sometimes I could be very vulgar, and they have us on Rumble instead of Spotify and Pandora. Because I want to use another word, but I better not. But yeah, and that's what happens a lot. um, and yes, it's you just said, and if you don't get hypnotized, oh, I'm going to say dickmatized. We're good. I just you're okay. Like, oh hell, who cares? And that's what happens. And if you don't let that happen, you're thinking straighter.
yeah.
Now men are going to be out there trying to dickmatize it.
Yeah, I think that, and that's one of the things that we tried to do, we tried to wait at least 6 months, right? We were halfway there. But
Yeah,
it
you get to know who they are because you're not going to put up. It sounds crazy. You're not going to put up with as much shit as you would if you were into that intimate that space. What did you call that space? That space. You said
so
soul something.
have you ever read Steve Harvey's book? It's what is it called? Think Like a Man. Think Like a Man.
Well,
Have
I
you
do
ever
think like a man, but I don't never heard the book.
Yeah, so in the book he talks about waiting 6 months. He said
Oh,
because
okay.
by the time 6 months comes up, he will have revealed to himself, to you, who he truly is.
Well, I could rewrite that book.
But the problem
I call it
is
3 or 4
that
dates. It's 3 or 4 dates now. So I'm gonna rewrite that book because all my friends, I tell them all, I'm like, you know what? You don't have to wait. Like, I didn't even know this book at 6 months, but I'm telling you today, because we're older, maybe 3 to 4 dates. By the second, you have an inkling. By the third, you're done. By the fourth, I'm done.
Mhm.
And again, if I would have been fast to begin with, I probably would have been tied in with those people,
Right.
not in a good space.
Right.
And because you don't see it, we block it out. All that negativity because of that what you called soul something. And I never called it that, but yeah. But no, it's quicker today. I'm telling you. If you're thinking and you know who you are, you get out there at least by the 4th date, and you could tell because they're already showing that mean side because you didn't sleep with them.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you already know at that point, like, oh, I can
Yeah.
tell this ain't going to work. 'Cause that's all he wants, and you know, I don't know how it is on the man's side.
He was completely not like that. Like he was very, for me, it's consistency. You know, it's
Oh yes,
love, but you show me through consistency,
yeah,
right? You, when I call you, you answer the phone. When I ask you to show up, you show up. When
exactly.
we get ready to go out, you open the door. He has been absolutely consistent.
I
These
like that word consistency, and you're right, because you're right about that, because that's what I look at these dates. It's like, well, he's not really consistent. You know, you call and they don't understand that they're under this telescope. They don't understand what I'm doing, but they don't figure it. They're like, what is she? It's like, well, and I always say, well, it's just, got to take your time, and or I insult them because if they try to, that's another thing. They'll try to like attack you. Like if you go on a date, they're trying to hold your hand and I do this, and I'm like, wait a minute, just back that off. Listen to me, just they don't understand. I said, "Well, I'm out with you tonight, but I'm gonna be out with someone else tomorrow night." I'm looking at it, "What? This is the dating world." We're not,
Mm,
and they look at you like, "What? You just said that?" In other words, cool your jets, calm down, take it
mhm.
easy, deep breaths. We're out to talk to one another and to meet it in a different scope. You want something quick? I'm not that woman. So, yeah, it all comes down to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Oh, that's so funny. You guys are great. You guys are great. But before we go, loved having you guys on. You're a veteran. I want to thank you for, I'm assuming you are a veteran and you served. Yeah. Thank you for your service. I'm sure you hear that.
Thank you.
But thank you for that as well. I want to switch. I respect that. Sure. Do you mind if I ask real quick what division you were in?
Yeah. I was a CB,
A what?
a CB, Navy.
Okay, the Navy. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I couldn't see that. Let me see if I can look at the picture. Maybe it's funny. Okay. That's funny. All right. Well, listen, it was great having you on, Dr. Viola, and
Mhm.
I can't say Orah. Sorry. That's such a different name. Different. Very nice. Very nice. And I want to
Good
thank
whenever you're trying to name your business.
the what?
It's great when you're trying to name your business.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's
Yeah.
really easy because there's a lot of Ashleys, but there's only one Viola
Oh
typically.
yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you? I know we could do a quick test. Where are you out of? Are you
We're in North Carolina.
Rocky
North
Mountain.
Carolina? I know you said you went somewhere in North Carolina. Now, do you have you have an office that people come to you or?
No, I am from my home.
Okay.
Yeah, I do online coaching.
Wow. Interesting. Do you want to say what do you want to talk about that right now for a minute and let's do a twist?
So
Yeah.
basically, we teach nurses how to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses.
Nice.
We're very niche to nurse coaches and consultants, and we help the healthcare industry by helping them fill the gaps. Nursing is the largest profession in healthcare,
Mhm.
okay, and so they have the knowledge to fill the gaps. The problem is that they're never taught how to go into business for themselves. So we teach them
Interesting.
business, we teach them lead generation, we teach them all those things in order to be able to get
Wow.
platforms. And so at that time, what happens is, so I just give you an example
Yeah.
how to help the healthcare system. So if you have a patient that comes into the hospital years ago, if you had a patient that came in, they needed an IV, they had to stay in the hospital during the entire time. However, what the nurses have done now, they've thought innovatively in order to get the patient out of the hospital. They're helping to build infusion centers so that the patient doesn't necessarily have to stay in the hospital. The patient can go home to the comfort of the home, but then go to the infusion centers in order to get their IV antibiotics, or they can come, the provider can come to their home and do it as well. But that's how we're thinking innovatively, because what's happening is the ERs are filling up. The nurses are tired, and it's really, it's detrimental to you as the consumer to go into a hospital and try to get into an emergency department when you can't get the patient that's in the tower or in the hospital out the door so that you can move up, because it's all a funnel, right?
Yes, it's always here, their beds are full. You
Right,
always hear
exactly.
Stuff like that. Yeah, you don't have a bed for them and da-da-da. Wow.
Uh-huh.
So
And
this is
so
a new way. This is what they're trying to do. This is what they're doing.
right, this is what they're doing. And so we
Wow.
teach them how to do that where they make money with it, right? And so because a lot of times what happens is nurses go into business and then they don't make any money, and then they go right back into the system. That's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right?
It's definitely a turn for I mean, this is a podcast to talk about love and relationships, but this is now entrepreneurial and super, super interesting. So in other words, if there's a nurse right now, right, and they want or he wants to become an entrepreneur in their own business, you're helping them. The company that you're with, or is your company, you're helping them start these. This is your company. Interesting. So you're helping them start this.
Right.
How would they get a hold of you? A website, name, email?
So my website is V as in Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com. And you can sign up for a free breakthrough strategy call, and you come through, you have a chat with me. We sign you into the program. And I mean, nurses are making, like I have a nurse, we have several nurses, we have several stories. But this particular one, she's now has a multiple six-figure business. She's able to work when she wants to.
Wow.
She doesn't work. She doesn't work. And so she helps her clients with all their corporate compliance, things of that nature, in order to be able to save dollars for her clients. So at the end of the day, she's able to do that. And she came to me fresh, like hadn't started a business, didn't know anything about business.
This
And
is interesting. So interesting. In fact, maybe we could even bring you on another podcast with that one, but let's just try to, yeah, I actually know a nurse I was with last night. She came down from South Carolina. And it was funny too, because she was actually saying to me that she's tired. She's tired of what she's doing in the hospital, but yet that's her field. And I even said, I said, "Do you ever think about doing something like, go on and do something on your own? Is there anything nurses can do on their own? I don't know. I'm not a nurse. I don't know, but I'm entrepreneurial. So I always did that twist. Like I always, always trying to think of what's the next best thing to do, especially what you have, your career. But yeah, I'd love to give her your information as well. Can't hurt to
yeah,
reach out to you.
you take your nursing knowledge that you already know, and I started it because I saw nurses that were struggling. Like the children, like they were working these 12-hour shifts. They were so tired by the time they got off that they were struggling with their children. It was just a whole hot mess. And so I was like, well, nurses, and what they were doing was they were marching on Washington and things of this nature. And I'm a firm believer that when you're in Rome, do what the Romans do, right? This is a capitalist society. It is what it is. And so because it is a capitalist society, what you need to do is you need to be intentional about making money in your business so that you can grow your business, so your platform can grow, so that you can give back, right? But the way that it is working now is that we spend about 20% of our gross domestic product on healthcare, okay? Now, that is up from 17.7% from before COVID, right? So we're spending more money on healthcare than we ever have. A fifth of our dollars are going towards healthcare. We're the richest country, yet we're the sickest country. And so until we heal, at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, there is your physiological being. until you heal your physiological being, then you can never reach self-actualization at the top. So I'm a firm believer that nurses have the keys to mobility to do that.
Beautiful. Well said. We need a, I mean, if we were standing, we should be standing ovation because it's so, Viola and oh my God, Orah, thank you so much. But again, you come onto the podcast because I was looking for someone to talk about their romantic, how they got together. And you two really was like, oh my God, this is a couple. I can just like a power couple, right? You two, you're a power couple. Never not, we did not, you talk about authentic, organic. No, it was going to spin into this.
Right.
Blindsided. But what you talked about is a podcast material to talk about what you do in your business. That is amazing. All the things I've talked to, I've never heard of that. But I think that's a good little niche. But we're gonna say goodbye. But I am gonna get that information from you also, and I'd like to put that also on the podcast.
Would
Your
love.
your business, yeah, entrepreneurial. Both of you, wonderful, wonderful people, and I want to thank you both for coming on to this podcast. Beautiful. All right.
Ellie.
Love you guys and happy Valentine's. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.